Good evening, welcome to FM Discussion. This is episode 482, and tonight we're going to be talking about the Blade Show coming up next weekend, not this weekend, the following weekend, and what's going to be occurring. And what is going to be occurring? Well, besides the Blade Show, there's going to be a seminar. 4 individuals, yours truly, Tuhon Bill, Bryan Cannata, that Bowie thing, I don't know. And we got Brian Brown, who's going to be hosting, which we're going to great deal of appreciation to him, what he's doing. So we're definitely going to acknowledge that. And then Alan, who's not here, McLuckie, if he jumps in, I'm be sure to include him, but perhaps he's just running a little late. So without further ado, the host, Brian Brown, Bryan Cannata, and Tuhon Bill. And they're coming up right now.
Hi, guys.
Hey, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, how's everybody doing? So, you guys kind of heard the intro.
Yeah.
What's that?
Can you tell if anyone's online with us yet?
Yeah.
We usually have a chat box on the side. I don't see anything there.
Yeah. There's a couple of people watching. Yeah, folks, if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from. Smash that like button. If you have questions, please put them on the right-hand side of the comment section. I'll be sure to get to them. And please do ask. But at any rate, as you guys heard the intro, this is going to be regarding next weekend. The seminar is officially June 8th and 9th. It is 2 days. Each one of us will be teaching. Oops, Brian should be coming back in. Should be 3 hours each. So before we do that, I'm just going to talk to the host, Brian Brown, who has been so kind to entertain this and do this. And a big thank you and appreciation to him. So, Brian, take it away.
Yeah, where do you want me to start?
Yeah, just I guess your affiliation with, it sounds like you got a working relationship with Tuhon Bill. So how, yeah.
Yeah, so funny thing. So I've been doing Filipino martial arts, I guess, for 5 years now.
Brian, your audio keeps fading in and out.
That better?
Yeah.
Okay. McLuckie was one of my first Filipino martial arts instructors that I trained with here in Atlanta. And then, like most everyone that does Filipino martial arts in Atlanta, at some point in time, we all find our Francis Wong's Academy. Sifu, as you all know, he's just fantastic. Along my journey, I ended up meeting one of Tuhon Bill's previous students, Matata Zach Whitson. Developed a pretty strong relationship with Zach. And I trained with Zach for just under 20 years with Zach. So, and I trained in his hybrid system he called CTS, which was a basic blend of a tremendous amount of Pikiti Terja, but he also trained with Grandmaster Kakoi, Kakoi Dose Pares. So, and I also trained that system along with Zach as well. Love that very much. And then just through a change of things going on, I was going different directions. Zach was going different directions. I was really interested in the Pikiti as well. So when I started branching back out, Tuhon Bill was one of the first folks that I reached out to. And he was completely kind and generous enough to invite me up to camp one year. And that went fantastic. And then he's done a workshop, or one or two workshops for me. Yeah, down here in Atlanta, which has all gone fantastic, and he's just been nothing but welcoming. And when we were talking about Blade Show again this year, Tuhon was like, "Hey, so on a workshop?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." But then we started talking about some of the challenges that we have at workshop, because everyone wants to do workshops at the Blade Show. Something dark out, come to the Blade Show. I don't know how that's a thing, but apparently that's a thing. But of brainstorming, and all you guys got involved. We're like, why don't we just do it? And so that's where we're at. And it's gonna be pretty exciting to have, different teams, which is I find.
Yeah, Brian, you're fading in and out. We're getting every other word.
I don't know what to say about that.
Better now.
Is that better now?
Yeah.
So Tuhon Bill asked me if I was open to doing a workshop. I jumped at it. What I find fascinating about this workshop is we're going to have 4 different folks who have a tremendous amount of experience give their perspective on a similar topic. I just find that
Yeah, that
I
is
just
interesting. Yeah, how that kind of came about. That's a name I keep hearing, Zach Whitson. And so, are you in touch with him anymore, or just curiosity? Not that it.
really, Zach was fantastic. He taught me, he gave me a wonderful base. But I was going a different direction. He was going a different direction, and so we kind of split our ways. But he was just fantastic for me as far as my development.
Just curious.
Same about him.
Yeah, his name. I've heard his name come up. One of my students trained with him way back, Rich Mager, and I keep hearing that name. So it's
I
just,
know.
you know.
I know Rich. Rich trained with Josh Ryer out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Rich is trained with a few different people. He's kind of, yeah. He's at a
Uh,
Mets game right now. He just messaged me. But
yeah, no,
um,
Rich, guy.
yeah, he's funny. He's
Yeah.
a funny guy. Um,
Yeah.
but awesome. So status quo, PTK, as far as FMA, pretty
Yeah.
much.
So what we plan on doing for the seminar is, as Bryan said, we're dividing into 4 quadrants or 4 time periods, 3 hours each. Saturday morning, I take the first one. Bryan McLuckie is after our 2-hour lunch break. Is going to take the afternoon on Saturday, and then you, Dean, are taking Sunday morning, and
Correct.
Bryan C is taking Sunday afternoon. What I plan, let me explain what I plan on doing with mine. One, the whole format of getting multiple teachers together. Really, really I remember my time in the early 80s when my teacher, Tuhon guy, was bringing in Dan Inosanto and Eddie Joffrey and doing joint seminars. And of course, Guro Dan has been doing joint seminars for many, many years with other top quality instructors. And it's really great for the students to get this, especially if everyone's kind of on the same, solving the same problem in different ways. It really, really benefits the students a lot. So I really enjoy doing these type of seminars, especially as they get older. I can't do a 12-hour day anymore, guys. 8 hours is even tough. So 3 hours is a nice time slot when you're in your 60s to do a seminar. You can keep up the enthusiasm and energy for that long. And then you rest and give someone else, these younger guys, time to do it. So what I'm doing is, in my slot, I learned a very specific way in pediatricia. We started with a basic empty hand versus knife, which was, a knife held in hammer grip, the attacks, and it was just this basic attacks of a uppercut, a backhand, and a hook, right? These boxing terms. And we didn't get our advanced empty hand versus knife, level 2, for lack of a better name, until we had a lot of knife versus knife technique and full contact sparring in, because that gives you the sense of timing and distancing coordination and just fight smarts that you need to do better, advanced hand versus knife. An advanced hand versus knife in those days is comprised of, ice pick grip, and then also diagonal slashes with the hammer grip knife, because it shares the same gross motion, right? So, now, are you guys hearing me? I'm getting some.
There's
Yes,
a static in the
sound.
background. I'm hearing you fine. I'm not sure where the statics come from, but it's not. It's not
Interfering with me.
affecting hearing
Okay,
you.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so in 1987, I started training the people from my department, working at the court office. I was a court officer. They bring me in during in-service classes and in academy classes to teach the guys. And I started to realize that I can't teach law enforcement the same way as I teach a martial art class, because you just don't have time. And then teaching, for my my local major, my local supervisor, in-service classes of our guys once a year for our stuff, for experienced officers, that's a very different group than academy recruits. So, and then I started to teach other agencies in different areas. And so I started to realize I really have to bring things smaller and tighter and more compact and quicker. And but still give them enough to work with that they have a chance of being able to pull this off under stress. So I don't like the word shortcuts, but there's certain efficiencies of teaching that help you when you teach adults, that get them to understand the theory, the technique at both ends. There is learning through comparisons, which is how a child learns. You know, mommy, grandma, Aunt Mary have a different facial structure than dad, grandpa, Uncle Harry, right? And then when you teach adults, they're learning more theory. They're learning more, this species of antelope, the males have horns like this, the females look like that, et cetera, right? You can teach theory now. So I'm trying to combine those in a seminar where I'm teaching both empty hand versus knife level 1 and 2, or basic and advanced, in the same seminar, and single knife levels 1, 2, and 3 in the same seminar, and teach the people how to teach this technique and why I'm doing it this way. I remember for many, many years, my teacher would give a basic empty hand versus knife seminar. People would get exposed to what's called knife tapping and tertia. And that's kind of like the foundation. I call it the mortar between the bricks. And then you'd see them go off and think that's the only thing in tertia. It is foundational, and the gross motions of a lot of small knife technique coincide with the gross motions from the empty hand versus knife technique, especially things like footwork and where you're placed. But you cannot take that as the only thing. And the very first class, things are done very simply and very relaxed to get them loosened up. That was a big problem for us in the 1980s. We're going to a lot of hard style karate schools teaching, and you really need people to loosen up. So it was done a little bit soft in the first classes. But it's not done. It was not done in the way we would do it. Leo gave it to us after we've mastered the basics. And so when I teach law enforcement, I have to do things differently. So that's going to be my focus on the seminar, is trying to teach in 3 hours at least the theory and why I do certain things of knife level 1, empty hand versus knife level 2, solo knife 1, 2, and 3. And let me get 2 tools out here. So solo knife, you have 2 knives. You and your opponent have a single knife, and they both have held in hammer grip. I don't know if you can see the small thing too easily. Let's get another. There we go. So you and your opponent each have a single knife in hammer grip. Level 2 is your opponent has a knife in hammer grip, you have it in ice pick grip. And level 3, you both have it in ice pick grip. So while a lot of the gross motions are similar, especially when you're using small knives under, a non-Bowie knife, a lot of the gross motions are similar, but the way attacks are expressed are going to be different based on the grip. So I'm trying to teach people to understand the differences between different grips on knife, different techniques on knife, and I'm trying to get them as early as possible into a decision-making process. So I try to get a thing I've been doing for the last 10, 15 years, try to break people up instead of the 2-man partner teams, 3-man teams. Mm-hmm. So a lot of what we do in tertia is you're trying to get them to the point where somebody attacks you and you have 4 choices in how to respond to that attack. And generally speaking, you might say, okay, I might escape to my right, I might escape to my left. What do I do if the guy's bigger than me? What if I do if the guy's shorter than me? So those are kind of like the 4 general choices I try to give people. So if you're dealing with a 3-man team, what's good against a left jab, if the bad guy 1 is on your right and bad guy 2 on your left, and bad guy 1 does it left jab first, what's a good thing to do against a guy attacking you from your right against a jab is going to be a different piece of footwork than what you need with a guy attacking you from your right. You'll go to my YouTube channel, Tuhon MCG, and you'll see I demonstrate that in a class I did in Dublin, Ireland, a couple of months ago. But you need to give people options. People get into a rut. People look what the teacher does and they try to imitate every nuance of what he does, you know, to the point where, you know, the Dan Santo guys tell me, you know, you can tell when someone learned to Guro Dan, if they hold their hand on their hip, on their back, supporting their back while they're teaching something. Dan did that when his back hurt. There are guys who trained under him at that time who were doing it. They perfectly fine backs, but they put their back over here. Everyone tends to do that. I tell very bad jokes. You know who I got that from? But you don't want to do it in a fight. So Peter Ziegler asked a question. What are the shortcuts for reality? It's teaching an adult like an adult. When you're teaching a child, you give them, you know, 100 repetitions of something. And because you can't explain every little nuance of the movement of the technique, right? Every little of the movement. If you try that with a kid, they get bored. They don't have a frame of reference. Where when you're speaking to an adult, if they have some basics already, a lot of people in this class are going to, then you can explain, okay, I want the hand up here. The reason I don't have a low guard like a boxer, because the guy might have that guy have a knife. I want your hands up. I want a high guard, protect your eyes, and why we're doing it that way. And there are certain little efficiencies, I like the word efficiency better than tricks, of teaching that get people moving a little faster. And even if they can't do it in class with perfect timing, at least understand why we're doing it this way. For instance, there's a common thing in knife tapping, Petersa, where you parry the palm with palm up, right, against a hammer grip knife. And there are reasons for that in terms of the structure of the arm and what might get damaged. But it's done very gently and softly and slowly at first so that people don't get stiff. Because if you let a beginner, you know, attack, you know, and just try to destroy that arm, which is what you're trying to do later, he's going to get faked out, he's going to miss, etc. He doesn't have the distance control yet. But if you take a partner and put his form in a tie pad and say, okay, I want you to hit this arm as hard as you can, and where you put it where you can hit the hardest, and the guy will say, okay, I can hit this as hard as I can here. All right, now we're going to bring that arm with the tie pad in real slow, and you're not going to hit it until it gets to that sweet spot where you have that little X in the air, your power zone, that's where you're going to hit it. And you give the guy a nice big tie pad. He's not going to get hurt. And you do things like that. There's something we learned in law enforcement training, and then I'll pass it over to you guys, that they've seen that if an officer sees a technique even once, he's going to have a faster reaction time in a real fight than someone who's never seen that situation before. Because you start to get to realize what's going on pretty early in the process. And you have that effect of time slowing down. So if you can recognize what's happening in the very beginning of the situation, your spider sense is tingling. Not only spider sense is tingling, I'm in danger, but I'm in danger from this specific thing. That helps your reaction time a lot. Even one time seeing the situation is significantly better reaction time than never seeing that before. And your brain goes into hyperdrive and you remember your instructions. So Dean, not Dean. Bryan, what will Mr. McLuckie do in the afternoon session on Saturday?
We did get a follow-up question though from Peter. And basically what he really meant was, how do you make this selection between what works and what is art?
Well, feedback from people who've done, I've been in empty hand versus knife situations. I've been in baton versus knife. We have a lot of law enforcement in our group. We have people who grew up in very bad areas in our group. And then the institutional knowledge of the Philippines. So you do a lot of sparring. There's no shortcut around the sparring, but usually when you have adults in a martial art class, they've had some experience, and definitely experienced cops who worked the street for a long time. will have some experience and they'll know, uh-oh, this is about to happen. I better get ready. Art is more like things like a spotted dagger. It's very rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it has, but it's very rare that you will have a long weapon in one hand and a short weapon in the other, and your opponent is going to have the same weapon set. So that to me is more art. I mean, I love spotted dagger. It's very beautiful. It's really cool. It's a very intricate chess game. But it's very unusual for it to happen in the street. Knife, I happen to like knife the best. I think it's very practical as a street defense. In countries or areas you can't carry a knife, you know, the two of the guys this weekend are going to be showing flashlight, which I'll tell you something from my days doing full contact sparring. We first got into it, we broke off in Tom Biggio's class at Columbia University. He didn't like, and I didn't like the heavy kendo headgear we used to wear in the Peter school, in the Peter class with Leo, and that's what we had. It's good for face protection, not so good for side protection, but you don't get good depth perception. It's heavy, it's weird. I did not like that. So Tom had us use fencing masks, and Tom was my sparring partner for knife work. He loved that. We had short rattan sticks. You know, when you bust up a rattan stick class training, you cut it off and you make yourself a knife, and we made knives. Well, a slash with a fake knife is a fake slash. A stab with an impact weapon like a palm stick or a stick of rattan, it is a real hit with an impact weapon. And you learn very, very quickly when you get knocked out by getting smashed in the face with one of these things that fencing headgear really sucks as boxing headgear. And there's a certain amount of impact force you get with a short thrust that you simply do not get with a long strike with the stick, at least a reasonable weight one where you're not going to break your friend's forearm. So, Peter Zigley, did that answer your question?
We'll soon find.
Hello, Mr. Prestes Senior from the Philippines.
Yeah, good guy.
Okay, so let's see. Next is Bryan Brown. Can you tell us what your ideas of what Mr. McLuckie will be teaching at the seminar Saturday afternoon?
Sure, I'll do my best. I've been on the mat with Al quite a bit. I got a little background on Al. So Al's Filipino martial arts formerly trained. So he trained with Angel Cabales and Mike and I back in the early days, quite a bit. And then spent a good bit of time with Guro Dan for a little while. And Al was teaching out of that Dernberg Academy that's pretty popular up there in Chicago. So he had the influence of just a tremendous amount of people. And then he actually spent a good bit of time with one of your training partners there, Tuhon Bill, with Tom Biggio. So he trained both Pakita Terzier with Tom as well as like internal martial arts with Tom as well. So Al's one, and then he trained with Tom Kiger of SIOC. I believe that's correct. I got that correct. And he also spent a considerable amount of early time with Vladimir in the Russian Sistema. So Al has very unique, and I really mean unique. I've never seen anyone else move like him. I've never felt anyone else like him. He's soft but strong at the same time. It's really, really weird, and you think you have a counter and then it's magically gone. He's just a unique individual. And you know, the one thing that's interesting about Al, is that a lot of the rules that I were taught not to break, he kind of breaks and shows you how, you know, which is pretty interesting of an individual. So one of the things that I think folks will see from Al is just a lot of just direct hands-on and a lot of unique ways of looking at things differently. You know, he does not teach a traditional way of doing class. He's much more of a concept-driven instructor. And you know, it's pretty interesting because a lot of my FMA students are relatively new, and this and just a short seminar with some of my guys and just folks that have just very little bit of training, you can see an increase in the skill gap from the beginning of class to an end of a seminar. And that's so, as you guys are instructors, you can kind of see that as teachers. That tells you, if you've done a good job in the class. So expect to see, you know, what he tends to call like Russianized Kali. You know what I mean? Like this hint of Russian sistema with a lot of Filipino martial arts into it. So it's just going to be unique. And if anyone's never spent any time with Al, then they're going to be in for a good surprise because it's just unique and it's fun, unique, and he's just a great teacher, an all around good person. So that's
it's an interesting combination. And so is this system more of a fusion? No, he's not teaching a nice system. He's not teaching Kabbalah, but more of a fusion.
100% fusion. Everything with him, and he's a big body mechanics guy, right? One of the things his whole thing is structure, alignment, breath work, right? Like all senior martial arts. It's funny. The farther you go up the tree, the more folks talk to you about, hey, breathe right, keep your back straight, have posture, have good footwork. I mean, that's literally the base of martial arts, and he's a big emphasis on proper mechanics. And he really credits Tom Bizio with a lot of his internal martial arts training.
Internal, yeah.
Credit.
Interesting. That's gonna be, yeah. And he's second half Saturday, the Blade Show. I'm gonna try to. How far is the actual your school from the actual Blade Show?
So I live in Roswell, and the Blade Show's in Marietta. Now you got to preface this with I live in Atlanta, so traffic is a coin flip. So hang on tight there. But no traffic. I mean, you can get there easy within a half hour. So easy within a half hour, but
traffic could be 45 hour.
My rule in Atlanta, if I got to be somewhere, it's always I leave an hour ahead of time, no matter where I'm going.
No matter what you're doing, because I'm just
even on a Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Same thing.
Yeah.
It's rush hour. Rush hour starts from about 4 o'clock in the morning and ends sometime around 12 o'clock at night. There's a little window in there.
Oh my!
Yeah. Wow. I'm just curious because I want to. I've never been to the Blade Show, so the goal is I'm going to go to the Blade Show Saturday, but I don't need to be there all day. I can tell you that much. I mean, I can only see so many knives. I mean, it's more I'm going to go there.
But they have so many knives there.
I know, but I can only see so many. I mean, I want to meet a few people there that I know are going to be there, and I can tell you pretty much after a few hours, I'm going to be ready to check out. And so I definitely want to get, so I just was wondering if it's feasible logistically, kind of going back and forth, I guess. So,
yeah, a lot of the traffic going between Marietta. My place in Marietta has been because there's been a lot of construction. They just did a complete major reconstruction there, so that's helped out a tremendous amount. But it is Atlanta, and all you need is some guy to drive like a fool, and before you know it, we're all, so.
Yeah, accident, construction, traffic. Yeah, I mean,
some guy from up north doesn't know how to drive down in the south.
Some Yankee,
some New Yorker.
Well, I deliberately made sure my hotel was in Roswell, so I can make the seminar without a problem.
Yeah, that's my advice, But it's Atlanta, but it's doable. And there's ways around, but it's it'll be a good time. I can't say this enough. I'm so just interested to just watch everyone's perspective on this. It's just going to be really
fascinating. It's Peter strikes again. No, more concrete, please. So, is it more based on the feedback you receive, legitimate sources? You don't have to. What's
okay? Yeah, he wants to know about how I put this together.
Okay.
So it's in the format like this, without anyone to demonstrate on, it's difficult. So the short answer is you should come to the seminar. And that's the purpose of the seminars, is show things like this. You know, I've been training in Pila Tertia. Next year will be my 50th anniversary in the art.
That's all?
I've been
50 years? That's all?
Yeah, 50 years. Yeah, that's all.
Half a century?
I was Leo's fullback instructor for many years. If he couldn't go to a seminar, he would send me. The first one he sent me to was in San Jose, California in 1979. I was 19 years old. Had a guy come over and said, Leo had done one in June of 79. That's where he met Guro Dan at Alfredo Bandolan's Campo School in San Jose. And Fred wanted him back in November. He couldn't go. He already had something scheduled. So I'll send Billy. So I went. And then we were at the following year's New York Knife Show, 1980. And I spent about 6 months in California. From the November of 79 to the spring of sometime in the spring of 80. And then November of 80, Leslie Assist, the president of Balisong Inc., we were at a knife show in New York. And Les is Filipino or half Filipino, I forget. He passed away a while back. But he was the owner of Balisong Inc., which became Pacific Cutlery, which is now Benchmade. And so he and Leo got talking. Leo was demonstrating the Balisong. And he said, "Oh, can you come to my place for a seminar?" "Oh, I can't make it right now, but give Billy." So I went and did another seminar then. I spent 6 months in California again. And then all throughout the 80s, I was kind of his fallback guy when he didn't have, because I was like his shadow, you know. You saw Leo, you know, somewhere behind him hanging out with Billy. So if he couldn't do a seminar, he would send me. Especially after we moved to Texas in 82. You know, if he was getting booked a lot more and more and more. So I've been teaching a long time. In 80, and so I'm still basically teaching martial art groups, except for maybe 2 law enforcement classes, but those were mostly as assistant to help Leo. And then in 86, I became a New York State court officer. 87, once I was off probation, they pulled me right into the academy and said, help us teach. They didn't have an academy manual on baton then. So I made the basically wrote the manual on baton for the New York State Court Officers Academy. And every time they had an academy class or they had in-service training for people, I was the guy to do that. Teaching recruits is teaching law enforcement people is different than teaching civilian martial arts. A lot of it is to timing. You know, a guy comes to your school every day for, you know, or 2 or 3 classes a week for 2 or 3 hours a class is very different than a guy who's going to be in this section of class on knife defenses for 2 hours. You may never see him again, or if you do, it's only once a year on that subject. And it's teaching military is different again. You know, what the rules of engagement for military are very different than law enforcement. The rules of engagement in militaries outside the United States are very different than U.S. military. So anyway, I try to learn every time I teach, and I try to learn how to communicate a little better every time I teach. And I try to say, okay, what will solve these people's problems? One thing Leo said to me, my teacher, little guy, when he made me a Tuhon, was I asked him if I could change something in the system, like the order of something in the rank chart. And he said, you could do anything you want now. You're a Tuhon. I said, I could modify, change things. Yeah, you're supposed to change things. So yeah, back then, you know, we were in the same organization. He didn't have a problem with it. He gave me instructions to do it. So I've always tried to say, what will solve this student's problem based on my experience? And I realized that a lot of people don't have the time to train as much as I did. And there are things you can say to experienced adults that they'll understand faster than you would do with a child. You get a 14-year-old boy, Billy, do this, do it 1,000 times. And what he's doing is You do it a couple hundred times, you don't have enough energy to be inefficient anymore. You have to do it efficiently. So I've tried to learn how to teach a little better every time I teach. And that's kind of what I'm bringing to the table in this class. Feedback from all the students I've had in all kinds of walks of life. Bryan, Brown, you've given us what Mr. McLuckie is going to teach. Dean, why don't you tell us what you're going to teach on Sunday morning?
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of dually focused on two systems. One is going to come from Piper, where I'm going to be really showing the emphasis on other weapons, but through the lens of Piper tactics. And so one of the things that Piper does well, those who don't know, Piper is a South African system based on a criminal element. So in other words, numbers gangs, the tactics were done in prisons. When they got others to Cape Town, Piper started taking a different look, got bigger, more facade, more room in there, just kind of giving a short version on this, but heavily tactic based. No drills really. It's on the wrong hand, it's bad stuff. However, I got attracted to not be far from the criminal aspect. It was more or less, how the heck would I defend against this? And two, I did see some really good things within that chaos and just terrible stuff there that I saw complementary to other arts. And talked to Lloyd just to get a feel, and said the right things to me that I wanted to hear. And so, took it as an interest, had no intentions of like where it took me. That was the farthest thing removed. But getting back to the tactics of Piper, one of the things it taps into by nature of the system is rotation, how to generate power in the smallest components of space. So we look at linear momentum versus rotational momentum. And so Piper does a really good job of really on rotation. So you could argue it's kind of like a blunt translation, if you will, with a knife of the power they're generating on there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that concept and basically go and transfer it to the flashlight. Flashlight's just one of my favorite, weapons in that household item, legally defensible, like Tuhon Bill mentioned, I have some people that take Piper, knife's not even legal. So I show them the tactics through the lens of a knife, make the direct translation over to other weapons. And one of those other weapons, of course, is the flashlight. And so one of the things that Piper's known for is a shimmering blade. You'll see this and all that. For Westerners, we're not criminals. We're not part of a criminal element or gang. So we're not looking to intimidate. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. We're not looking to intimidate or distract as far as illegal, like illegality or criminal behavior. However, though, the shimmer does have benefits as far as momentum, force field, but more importantly, distracting it. So I one day I just got to thinking, I saw my flat and I'm like, and somebody else might have did this too. So I'm not, by no means am I saying, I'm the one that found this. I don't want to get that misconstrued. I'm like, wow, here's a great application of the shimmer. And there. So I'm going to be basically showing tactics with a flashlight. And what we call on the small vid, if anybody saw it, that Tuhon was so gracious to put together for all of us, is orbits. And where orbits is just a fancy word for circling. So we have big orbits and we have small orbits. I'm going to be focusing on small orbits where I can get rotation and really for power. If you notice what my left hand's doing, it's framing out, keeping the person at bay in there, right? So space. So that's pretty much what I'm going to go over. However, I'm not going to be showing knife stuff or giving people, no, if I don't know everybody in that room, I stay away from that, just to be honest. I will discuss some things, and I will be talking to Bryan Brown, like who's in there. And this is, because I take that very seriously. These systems in the wrong hands, it's not good now. need to be pulled in court because somebody's saying Dean Franco showed me, what to do here. And then that's off. Where I was just talking about somebody breaching the gap here, but where the person threw the punch? Well, I'm going to go into that. So I'm basically going to go off one attack and one where you try to diffuse the situation, nothing's working, it's getting escalated, and therefore you need to do what you do. So I'm going to focus on those two things. And if time allotted, I will show some blade tech stuff, which is more in the mammalian. Self-defense, dueling, sparring, hyper reptilian, you know what I mean? So I'm just careful how deep to go in there, depending who's in the room and stuff like that. It's just something I just take very serious. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell without giving too much away.
All right, on to Bryan C.
Oh, wow. Well, how many people do we have here online? Well, I don't know. For those of you that aren't familiar with what the Medusa edged weapon system is, it's kind of as much as I hate to say it, the North American equivalent of Piper, which is to say it's a collection of tactics that come out of the American prison systems. And Mike and Seth Raymond, they put this system together several years ago after some really deep analysis and noticing that certain patterns arose no matter what prison you were in, no matter what.
And pardon me, Bryan, you should clarify the people who put this together were correction officers knowing how bad guys are doing things, not bad guys themselves?
Right. No, they're not even correction officers. What they did was they were martial artists that were very dissatisfied with what they were getting in a lot of the more traditional routes of blade defense. So they asked the question, where do people get stabbed every single day? The prison system. So they started interviewing corrections officers, inmates, victims, perpetrators. They did a lot of work. They crossed a lot of bridges, got in with a lot of people, had some very deep discussions, and these tactics and patterns are what showed up. Now, what's fascinating about it is much like any other tool, you can build a house with a hammer, or you can use it to murder somebody. The advantages of Medusa is that it's quick, it's easy, it's simple to understand. If you think about FMA or even Piper as martial arts, Medusa is a combative template, much more so than it's anything else. And you can use it with a knife, you can use it with a flashlight, you can use it with a cell phone, you can use it empty-handed. It's so simple, it's almost not tactical, and it's very, very versatile. And the other advantage of studying it is it takes such a short time to learn how to do it that you now have a functional platform to test your martial art against of how you might actually be attacked in the real world. I mean, all of us here love Filipino martial arts. We practice all sorts of really cool stuff. But what's the reality of us being presented a, Filipino martial arts duel on the streets? That person that is attacking you is not going to have a clue. They're going to come at you with the endemic criminal ways of stabbing somebody. And learning that will behoove anybody. And we take it into a more law-abiding focus in that we do look at impact weapons and other force multipliers than just the knife. We use the knife to teach the base tactics, but then from there on, we move into things like flashlights, staplers, water bottles, you name it. If you can put it in your hand and you follow the Medusa roadmap, you can apply violence to somebody else. One of the big things to understand about Medusa, for those that aren't familiar with it, is Medusa relies heavily on aggression. We kind of look at things as an altercation in 3 phases. There's the first phase where you never should have gotten in the situation in the first place, and that's things like going stupid places, doing stupid things with stupid people. That's this guy is approaching you. You should have been able to de-escalate this and kept distance. By the time you get down to where you're fighting, you've made a whole bunch of mistakes from the morning you got up to that moment then. So that's like your first phase. The second phase is what I like to call self-defense. This is not the legal term of self-defense. This is that instantaneous moment where you realize you've been attacked and you need to weather that storm to be able to then go on the self-offense and bring the attack to the person that is attacking you until you have stopped them. All right? To put it plainly for the military folks out there, you attack the ambush. You don't hide in your truck. You attack the ambush. And so, other than technique, a lot of this is, I hate to use the term mindset because it gets bandied about so much like it's some sort of mystical thing. But the reality is you have to get out of the defensive mindset and move into an offensive or counter-offensive mindset when you're dealing with real-world violence. And Medusa is designed to transmit this in a very short period of time and give people a solid basis of skills that they can walk out of the school the moment my seminar is done and apply it. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on. And not a darn thing to do with Bowie knife this time.
Wait. I wanted Bowie knife. Wait,
Bowie knife is pretty cool.
Don't say those words. I'm going to be going there and I'm going to be demanding, and I'll put a fit right in the middle of the floor.
You got to take him in a corner, Bryan, and stab him a few times with a rubber Bowie knife.
There we go. There we go.
We got some questions. All right, Lewis Bowers. I'm not familiar with this. I heard about it, didn't watch it, but maybe perhaps one of these other gentlemen did.
Oh, Mannheim, Germany. I've not. I don't know if I've seen that one. There's so many that come up on my feed all the time, Lewis. Right. If we're friends on Facebook, if you could send me the link, or go to my
page.
Floating
around.
Yeah. Go to my page, pikitty.com, and contact me that way if you need to.
That one actually hit me really kind of hard just watching that. Not only was it horrible and brutal, but that's also a place that I used to hang out all the time. I know exactly to the cobblestone where that assault took place. It's one of my favorite places to hang out in that area when I was stationed there. And Germany's changed a lot since I was there.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Used to buy switchblades legally in Germany.
Oh, yeah.
Telescopic baton back in the 90s when I was first going. You buy a switchblade, it was just a pocket knife. Yep. It had to be shorter than a certain length. You could buy a switchblade there. Telescopic batons were legal there. Mm-hmm. It was interesting. You could not have a spring-based baton, like a floppy spring. Because the Nazis used to interrogate people with those. But you could have a straight shaft, hard, like ASP style baton. And you could carry that as a civilian, if a dog attacks you, When
I was there,
Europe has really changed.
When I was there in the 80s, Bill, the Polizei still had the spring-loaded ones.
Another questioning. Oh, go ahead.
You've answered our questions, kind of thing. Is that why I got banned?
No. Just they act very differently, and they tend to do more damage than the straight batons because you end up developing more momentum on the head. And the Polizei already had a bad enough of a reputation. Yeah, and after unification, there was a lot of pressure from a lot of different places to revamp a lot of how Germany handled policing. That's my understanding in a very broad kind of
Bad news. And Michael Blackrave, like, my family told me that I heard it was pretty bad. I didn't watch it, and I really don't like watching that stuff. Here's here's a question. Got actually a couple. Let me get this one. This will be quick. Hey, Maynard, this is about this show. We're talking about the seminar is coming up on 6/8/6/9. One person is missing who's going to be teaching, but basically there will be four of us teaching during that weekend of the Blade Show. And we're just kind of covering what we're going to be teaching and just slightly just some promotional here. Okay, this is from Roger. His question is, I have a question. If I may, I don't know where you guys were talking about.
It's bigger on my screen, Dean. I have a question, if I may. I don't know where you guys were talking about. Does FMA also have comparison elements with HEMA, historical European martial arts? Do you have examples of sources? In Philippine martial arts, no, it's with family arts, not written down until fairly recently. But you have men who fought in the guerrilla movement in World War II. You have, people who fought in various matches and, really rough things and rough areas in the Philippines. So from a Tertius standpoint, just talking about an empty hand versus knife, it's empty hand versus knife coming from people who use a knife and used it over there and had to do bad things with it over there. And they're saying, if I have to fight empty hand versus knife, this is how I would do it. A lot of it comes from knife to knife work, and a lot of it using gross motions of knife versus knife, but you're not slashing a guy's arm because it's a small knife. You're controlling his arm with your arm and then doing a hit or a stab with that knife. So a lot of it is, from a Tertius standpoint, is a family art from a small village in those days in the Philippines. So we don't have like the written documentation. However, having said that, there was a big HEMA element in Philippine arts in general in the central Visaya regions where the Spanish had control. There was, Spanish were occupied the Philippines for 300 years. A lot of the numbering, a lot of the terms come from Spanish military sword work, especially 19th century saber. If you want to see some tie-in with HEMA, I would say go to Spanish 19th century saber technique, military saber, and that should give you. You're gonna notice little bits and pieces, little pop-ups that may come up in similar terminology and whatnot. Bryan, you probably have Bryan C. You probably have some input on that.
Yeah, I depending on exactly.
We don't hear him.
Pardon?
Brian Brown is not hearing you. Bryan C. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
I'm hearing all of you. So.
Okay.
Brian,
I can hear you too,
Brown, can you hear me, Bryan Brown?
Okay, Bryan, you can't hear Dean and you can't hear Bryan Cannata, but you can hear me?
Yep, that's correct.
Oh, that's
Dean,
weird.
can you say something?
Yeah.
So can you hear me?
Yeah, Dean's frozen and Bryan's frozen on me. And I think, there goes Dean's moving again. It may have been Al tried to call me just a second ago. So that may have been my phone
that might have thrown
blinked
it
up.
off.
So I may have a little connection issue on my but that's where I'm at.
But to answer Roger, hey Seth, very, very important thing for Seth. Shave the beard.
Seth's got a beard?
Yep. So now that's said, back to the relationships between FMA and HEMA. That's something I've looked at a lot because one of the things that caused me to look into the Filipino martial arts in the very beginning was trying to find living sword systems that would help me interpret what I was seeing in manuals. Once I did that, and you start really looking at the old manuals, and I'm talking like 14th, 13th, 12th, 11th century manuals, you will see the exact same motions for weapons of the same size. And what I mean by that is it could be a cutlass, it could be a barong, it could be a messer, it could be a panute. The movements for those bladed weapons have been the same in just about every single culture because mechanically blades only cut one way. Mechanically, human beings only move one way. Well, several, but you get my point. So, whether there's influence or whether it is convergent evolution, you can find examples in plenty of historical European manuals that you can look at and go, oh, that's a roof block. Oh, he's defanging the snake. Oh, that's Cadena Real. You know, you can
And
see
most of, Brian, would you agree with me? Most of the things you will see that are similar between FMA and HEMA are in the terminology. And the, to me, a lot of it, no, or the mental structure.
The fundamental structure of the movements is the same. The terminology is wildly different depending on culture, depending on time period, depending on who wrote it down. It's almost as bad as like trying to figure out just exactly what the term for a specific movement in the FMA is when you've got
all those islands, all those dialects.
Yes, exactly. So in situations like that, it's almost better to look at the illustrations and see the movements than worry about what the words are saying. If you follow one, like what we would call a roof block, Tallhofer calls a displacement, which I actually kind of like better personally because it's very indicative of the movement and how this displaces their blade, allowing you to come in into that angle one. So it's things like that. But yeah, it's and thankfully we live in a time period where you can find most of these manuals and stuff online. So it's just start looking, at manuals and comparing them with what you know about whatever the particular style of Filipino martial arts you study, and you're going to make amazing connections. And you're going to be like, they're doing the same thing. It's pretty remarkable.
A quick answer to a question from Ventura and Cheta. How often have you been to the Philippines? Only once with Leo. Back in '84, I accompanied him to a business trip there. That was when I met Edgar Sulate as well. Edgar Sulate, it's a long time ago. But I've only been there once. I like to say the Philippines came to me. Leo moved to New York in '73 after the Philippine president time. Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law. His first wife, Isabel, was a nurse, and she got a job in New York. They moved the family there, moved right around the corner from me. I lived in Elmhurst, Queens at the time. I was on 50th Avenue and 96th Street, and he was lived on 95th Street, so right around the corner, and just started training with him February of '75. So, all you young guys, where were you guys in 1975?
I was 3.
Believe it or not, Bill, I was not too far from you. I was right around the corner.
Age-wise or physical location?
Physical location.
Really? We're gonna have to compare notes one day.
I have no notes. I was barely a toddler at that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was. If it was '75, I was like, depending on when, I was either 4 or 5 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what town in Queens your parents lived in at the time?
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay.
But it was somewhere around 96. I do remember that much. So I mean, literally, probably right around the corner in one of the big apartment complexes.
Okay. So anyway, guys, you see any other questions in there?
Nothing has come in, and I haven't gotten anything via message.
Michael Blackgrave references Ricky Rillier, very nice guy.
Thanks, great answer. Okay, he's just thanking Roger on the answer. Okay.
Yeah, guys.
Yeah. I would say to everybody, this is kind of a really cool opportunity. If you're nearby, it would be worth your time to come into town, hit Blade Show, come to a seminar, get some amazing instruction from everybody. I'm just going to teach you how to shank people. It's a rare thing when you get to combine the biggest knife show on the East Coast and instruction of this quality. So it'd be worth your time to make a little trip next weekend.
Yeah. And Blade shows for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Our seminar is Saturday, Sunday. So I'm going to be at Blade Show Friday. I get, a free day. Mm-hmm. I encourage everyone watching this to go to my YouTube channel, Tuhon Bill MCG at YouTube, and look at the videos there. I got over 100 free videos. Even if you can't make the seminar, look at that. You'll have an idea of what I do. Bryan C., you have a YouTube channel too, right?
Yes, I do, but I really don't have a lot of Medusa stuff on there that's available to the public. We tend to not put a lot of that out there.
That makes sense, yeah. Dean, you have, FMA Digest.
Yeah, so yeah, there's FMA discussion,
right?
YouTube.
Do you have any of specifically Piper?
I do private, and it's not made public.
Yeah, I can understand why.
Yeah.
And Al McLuckie is still in the Stone Age. It's lucky if we can catch him on video. We got more videos of Bigfoot than we do Al.
Yeah, there's a couple rare ones out there every now and then, but he's Flintstone as he jokes around with when it comes to computers. So, but you guys will have a class with Al.
Yeah, looking forward.
Follow up from Mr. Anchetta. Have you ever met Vinnas? No, but I've seen him on video. It looks very good. There's a lot of good people in the Philippines that I think should be better known. I think with YouTube and with
it's happening though.
Zoom and things. It's starting to come out now, right?
Oh yeah, FMA.
I'd like to see a lot more, especially the older guys in the Philippines. I'd like to see them much more get online and teach people. And a small Zoom fee for a Westerner can make a huge difference to somebody living in a barrio in the Philippines. So I'd really like to see more of these guys start doing that. I don't know if Zoom's available in the Philippines, but I'm sure there's something they could do over there.
Yeah.
And some honest high-tech person, maybe a younger family member knows computers, can help set them up. But that'd be wonderful to see.
It's happening though. Like I've had some older gentlemen folks come on, and there's family members helping them. Matter of fact, Nene Tortel. I mean, so yeah, it's happening. I mean, which is obviously a good thing. So
it's kind of a funny thing about the Philippines. Their technology infrastructure is amazing, but the majority of the population there doesn't have access to it because so much tech business is done through the Philippines that they have amazing internet, but most people can't afford it.
Yeah. Got a second question though that came in from Maynard. Doing Bill, what was your experience like in the Philippines? Did GT Gahe introduce you to other Nisadors?
Just Edgar Sulate.
Just Edgar.
As I said, we're on a business trip. We're only there a few days. I'd like to go, but by the time I was able to afford to go over there, Leo and I had already parted ways, so such as it is. But like Bryan Cannata was saying, a forehand is still a forehand, a backhand is still a backhand. Our moves are a certain way. Weapons of a certain length are going to get used a certain way over time of people who have real life experience with these weapons, at least. So take this opportunity, try to get to the seminar if you can. I'm going to be making a videotape of my section, but it's only going to be available to people in my organization or people who have taken my Zoom seminars on knife. So it's a finite list. I don't know what the other guys are doing, but I'm getting the impression they're probably not going to make it generally wide open to the public. It's dangerous stuff. You don't want this getting out to knuckleheads. We see every day knuckleheads doing terrible things with blades. Pardon me, I have a gypsy moth caterpillar just spun down from my computer.
Is it that time of year up there?
Oh yeah, we got them all over outside. I don't know how you got the back of my computer, but anyway. So anyway, guys, I would encourage all the people out there, if you can't make this seminar, try to encourage your teacher to do seminars like this, where you have a group of individuals, experienced instructors, get together and say, okay, we're going to try to show you how we each solve the same problem. That's a tremendous advantage to be able to see that, to see what works for you at this stage in your life with the equipment you carry and what the laws are in your state. And it's a really helpful thing, guys. It will open your mind. If you can't go to this seminar, try to go to a seminar like this. And if you don't have anything like this near you, try to get a couple of teachers who do different things that are somewhat related, and try to do a seminar in your area, joint seminars, even if it's just two teachers, but showing you how they solve the same problem. Also, another good thing I would like you to do, if you can, is go to my blog section, type Pikiti, P-E-K-I-T-I, Pikiti.blog, and go to my blog, and you're going to see a section of learning through comparisons, and it's about joint seminars and the advantage of joint seminars. If you can't do this, find one near you. If you can't find one near you, encourage your teachers to do one. It's a good format. It's good for the students. It's good for the teachers. You get to see how other people do things. It makes you, if you're a teacher, it makes you a better teacher to see how other people do things and other arts do things. Guys, do you have anything you'd like to add? We're past the hour mark.
No, I'm just looking forward to obviously seeing all you guys. I can't wait. Some of you, it's gonna be first time meeting. So
I'm still on a silent list, but I'll just say that I'm super excited to have the four of you guys in town. That's going to be fantastic. And I can't reiterate enough of what you just said, Tuhon, is the beginning student gets to see four different perspectives. And then the senior student, he gets to see different things. And, I am a giant fan of having your mouth closed and ears open when it comes to learning. And just, I think especially in, martial arts, we have a tendency to think my way is the only way and my path is the only path. And this, when four different people come from four different backgrounds and show similar things, that starts to chip away at that thought process. And I'm a giant fan of that. So looking forward to everything.
Excellent.
Same here.
All right. Should we close it up, Dean?
Yeah. Just obviously thank you guys for coming on. And before you know, we'll be seeing each other. And a big thank you to all of you for coming on. Hopefully, hopefully Alan's not in the internet ozone layer out there trying to get on or doing whatever. But so one of us will get in touch with him. I'm sure Bryan will in touch base with him. Let him know what happened. He can. So Bryan, is he familiar with the channel?
I think so.
He asked Bryan Brown. He asked, "Is Al McLuckie familiar with the FMA discussion podcast?"
I don't know, but I'm actually going to give him a call once we get off of here. So I'll definitely try and wrap him involved in that.
If he's just tell him, once I download it, of course, it'll be posted. If he wants to watch it.
Bryan, Dean is, once he downloads it, he's going to post on Facebook where it's located on his YouTube channel, and you
Okay.
just tell Al he just clicks the link and he'll see the chat we had tonight.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Nice comment from Coach Danny Turrell. Having 4 legit instructors to experience their instruction is an amazing learning opportunity. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Dan.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. All right.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you, Dean.
Well, hey, absolutely. I'll see you guys soon. All right.
See you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
See you guys next weekend.
You too, guys. See you tomorrow, Bryan.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks. All right, guys, that wraps up 482. Who is next? That's a good question. I should know the answer to this, but I'm looking at my list. I got to tell you who's coming in June, which is, I've confirmed with Mark Wiley. I'm talking about Chinese influence in FMA. Could be really fascinating. Bryan Z, Monitor Nice, Zelinsky, and a couple other guys. Could be a panel interview. Hopefully Ron Saturno. Hopefully that will actually come into play. A couple others, but yeah, as always, you'll see it posted. But yeah, definitely we'll try to get somebody on next week for sure. Won't go a week without having a show. I can guarantee you that. I just don't know who yet, but it'll be somebody. I promise. And but anyway, thank you for watching. Those who chimed in, asked questions, and smash that like button. And we'll be seeing you guys hopefully soon. If not, next week with whatever show I'll be doing. All right, take care.